Something the average person wouldn't know about toy design is that we are pretty much responsible for the first thing that everybody interacts with to learn. A toy is the first tool that your parents give you to learn from, besides their fingers.
What I've gotten over the years of what an average consumer doesn't know about toy design is, I don't think they even understand that there's an entire design industry based around toys. And when you start thinking about it, like, yeah, of course that makes sense. Like, someone's got to make it and come up with it, but it blows their minds that that's even a profession. And that always blows my mind, because like, well, where do you think this stuff comes from? Like, someone makes it, someone thinks it up, and everyone just assumes we're just a bunch of kids, playing. It's got to be such a fun job. And it is, but there's also a lot of hard work that goes into it. There's insane amounts of talented people that do every aspect, from the packaging to the illustrations to the engineering, to the costing, to the sales. Like, all of those elements have to come together to really get a product out there, get it marketed correctly, making sure it hopefully hits and it like resonates with kids. Because year after year, I think there's more and more toy brands out there, and there's less and less shelf space. So it's harder to stand out. I think that's, you see things that show up at your local, if you're going to a Target or a Walmart, or hopefully like a cool actual toy store, there's just so much out there, and it's really hard to stand out. And I think people wouldn't necessarily understand how hard it is to get something on shelf. And kind of, when you take away space from, let's say you're in Target and you're competing against Marvel, Disney, every Disney property that's out there, and Star Wars, they own that space for a boy's action figure, or, whatever aisle you're in, there's always going to be someone that is just kind of owning that space. And you're trying to find a little way in, a little, creative outlet to find some kind of, they call it white space. So space that someone else isn't playing in and not offering a product for. And I think there's so much in that challenge to get there. I don't think people understand the amount of thought that has to go behind getting something that in there, then also executing it, and the amount of people that go behind it.
There's a lot of business involved. It's not just coming up with fun, crazy stuff. Over my 25 years now, I guess that's been the biggest thing. Learning curve is really understanding the business side of how not only are toys designed, but produced, manufactured, shipped, sold at retail. What I focus on in my companies is kind of doing all of that. So I've really had to learn every aspect of it. But that's also what I enjoy. It's pretty fun.
I think something that people don't know about toy designers is that, of course, it is super fun, but we also work really hard. So I think it's not that we just play with toys all day, I wish. But that we actually do work really hard to make the toys super awesome and cool.
The first thing a lot of people say is like, oh, it must be so fun. And it's like, yes, and it's also a job. So, and a lot of times too, you'll be designing something, it won't necessarily come out into the world. And then that's okay. That's part of the job. You kind of explore, and then you just kind of like, well, if it makes it out, great. If it doesn't, well, that's, back to the drawing board.